What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Abel, and I'm back with another video. And in this video, family, we're gonna go ahead and bring it back to the basics and talk about key levels. How do I identify key levels of support and resistance in this market? If support and resistance is even important to even focus on, and how we can go ahead and utilize support and resistance if it is important to help us out really predict future price action. Now, one thing that I'm also going to be doing, guys, is I am going to be taking it a step back, right, and creating a lot of content from more of a basic perspective, right? Especially now that I'm going all in with YouTube, it's time for me to go ahead and really bring it back to the basics and give you guys quality content on a lot of the most basic information that you guys need to clearly understand if you truly want to go ahead and make trading work. Go ahead and make sure to like this video, comment on this video, make sure to be subscribed as well, because like I said, we're going to drop a lot of value for every one of y'all that's tuning in. Now, before we even go ahead and get into this video, I want to give a big shout out to all of my Noti Gang members. I see you guys that have been dropping Noti Gang in the previous videos that I just dropped for you guys. And I want to go ahead and give a shout out to 2 Noti Gang members that are actually subscribed to the channel, that have been participating and have been dropping comments as well on the videos. And most importantly, they also have their post or the video notifications turned on so that they're updated for every single video that I drop, right? So if that is you, if you want to be a part of the Noti Gang, then I want you guys to go ahead and drop Noti Gang in the comments down below. Make sure to be subscribed, and you can also see your name and your comment pop up on one of my future videos, right? So let's go ahead and give a big shout out to these 2 Noti Gang members right here, one right there. I appreciate you guys for being a part of the gang, and I look forward to continue to give you guys a ton of value moving forward in this trading journey. But without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and get into this video and let's learn about key levels and how we should be looking at key levels and how we should utilize key levels to absolutely help us predict future price action moving forward. Let's get it. What's going on, guys? So now we're actually on my computer, and like I said, we're actually going to break down key levels. Right now, there's going to be 2 ways that I like to, the way to identify specific key levels. Now, the first way, guys, is by literally just using raw market structure, raw levels of support and resistance. Now, for those of you guys that are newer and that are just now getting started in this journey, you might not know what support and resistance truly is just yet. Well, a very simple way of breaking down support and resistance is to really look at it as a floor and a ceiling. Support acts like a floor. Me right now, I'm sitting at my desk, I'm sitting on my chair, and I'm being supported by this floor that's currently under my feet, right? Where resistance acts like a ceiling, where if I were to say throw something at this roof, at my ceiling, it's going to resist from it continuing to go higher, right? So again, look at support and resistance as a floor and a ceiling. It's the most simplest way to really understand that, guys. Now, when we're looking at price and we're actually actively trading, it's very important for us, guys, to actually identify these key levels, right? Or these levels of support and resistance. Because one thing as Forex traders we need to do is we have to use previous history to try to predict future price action. Use previous history to try to predict where we can expect some potential reactions from. And those reactions that we're looking for are the areas that we can also go ahead and take potential trades from. So let's go ahead and get into this, guys, and really just identify various levels of support and resistance by looking at this Euro USD chart right now. Now, one thing that you guys should understand about key levels, guys, and areas of support and resistance is that you really want to focus on higher time frame key levels, right? Because the higher time frame key levels are the ones that are going to give you the most data or can give you the best opportunities to actually trade from. And these levels as well, guys, right? These higher levels of support or higher time frame areas of support and resistance, it also eliminates a lot of the noise that you actually find when you go to these lower time frames. I'm always going straight to the higher time frame at the beginning of every single trading session to identify my major areas of structure or my major areas of support and resistance. So it's as simple, guys, as looking at previous history and identifying where price has failed in the past, where an area of price has been rejected by, say, a resistance level or a roof or a ceiling, and then also finding areas where price was also supported and it also acted as areas of support. So if we're looking at Euro USD right now, guys, we can see that this market genuinely has been flowing to the downside. So our trend here is bearish for Euro USD. But in the course of this entire bearish trend that we've seen, we've been able to identify various levels of support and resistance. So up here, these zones that I actually highlight, these zones, guys, are helping us identify areas of support and resistance. So again, remember this, remember what I said in the beginning. When price is being rejected from the top, right, from a high, after pushing up and then we see a rejection, that creates a level of resistance. Okay. And then when price acts like a floor, it is also creating a level of support. Resistance is at the top, support is at the bottom, right? Let me go ahead and just change this color so it's a little bit more easier for you guys to really identify. All right, let me go ahead and make this a little bit brighter. Right, so again, resistance at the top, support at the bottom. Every time that price comes up to this, say, resistance, we see a reaction. Price comes up to this resistance, we see a reaction. Price comes up to this resistance, we see a reaction. Now, whenever price does come up to those levels, guys, that gives us an opportunity to see a reaction. And that is also an area where, since we could expect a reaction, we can potentially go ahead and find an opportunity to trade that reaction. Okay. And it's the vice versa for the support as well. And whenever price finds a level of support, it's going to fall to a certain price point and it's going to react off of that. It's going to find a level of support. It's going to react off of that. It's going to find a level and it's also going to react off of that. Again, these areas are areas where we can potentially look for opportunities to get involved. Now, again, just keep in mind, guys, when you are trading support and resistance levels, it's very important to make sure that you are aware of the overall trend. So in this specific example right here for Euro USD, like we mentioned, the trend is bearish, right? It's a downtrend. So when we identify a downtrending market and we're also identifying levels of support and resistance, the highest probability trade ideas that you can find are probably going to be the ones that you're looking to find a trade off of a level of resistance. Now, that's not saying you cannot buy a support in the downtrend. You can, but you have to understand that that is a counter trend move. You're going to have more success looking for continuations of trends instead of trying to predict reversals of trends or counter trend moves off trends. So it's very important, guys, to stay with a trend. And in order for us to do that, we have to trade off of the resistance points. All right. So in a downtrend, you want to identify key levels of resistance that can give you an opportunity to go ahead and short this market, and vice versa. In an uptrend, you really want to focus on key levels of support that can allow you to look for some long opportunities to start buying the market up. So again, uptrend, focus on those levels of support to look for entries to get the next move. In a downtrend, you want to focus on those levels of resistance that you can go ahead and look for potential shorting opportunities from. Okay, now that's not saying that you can't counter trend trade, because you can, but again, that's a skill in itself. You want to stay with the momentum, guys, for the most part, because it could give you just a much easier or much better way of actually starting to see wins piling up in your trading account. Another thing that we also have to identify as well, guys, is that there's going to be various levels of structure that you can actually identify. You don't want to just only look for, say, the highs and the ultimate highs and the ultimate lows that you see, right? Like right here on this screen. Let me actually go ahead and just clean this up a little bit. All right, perfect. Right. So like I was saying, you don't want to just find, guys, the obvious highs and the obvious lows and say, oh, yeah, those are our support and resistance levels. Because in fact, guys, there's also going to be certain levels that you can also utilize inside of the obvious levels that you can look for potential trades from. So I'm highlighting this level right here with a green bar, because this is going to be acting as a resistance. And we want to identify these levels as well, because these are internal levels that we can look for also potential continuations of the move. So you want to identify all of these key levels, guys, right? Especially when you're doing your first analysis and you're looking at it from the bigger picture, you want to be able to be aware of certain areas that we could potentially expect the market to actually react from. Now, let's actually go to more relevant price, right? And actually look at price that we're looking at right now in real time, right? So for Euro USD, guys, we can identify this level of resistance up here, right? Where we clearly have seen price come to this specific price point, and we have seen price literally go ahead and actually react from that, right? So that's not a support, that is a resistance. Let's also look for an area of resistance as well. Bow, right? We have this low down here. So now we have found, guys, levels of support and resistance, right, for the overall bigger range that we're in. Now let's go ahead and take it a step back. Remember, we want to also find other levels of support and resistance, even on the inside of this range that we're trading. So we also, guys, have a level Well, let me change this to actual support, right? We also have a level, guys, right here where price has acted as support in the past. Okay, so we want to highlight that level. Very important for us to highlight these key levels. Now, a cool thing about support and resistance, guys, that is very important to understand is that previous levels of support, once broken, can turn into resistance, and vice versa. Previous levels of resistance, once broken, can also turn into newfound support. So we have an example right here, guys, of that actually happening. We have price that actually fell down to this price point, reacted off of it, was acting as support. We had enough momentum to actually break that level. And then look what price actually turned around and ended up doing. That previous level of support, once we actually broke through it, can now potentially act as newfound resistance. Previous support, once broken, can now act as newfound resistance. Right, so this is an example, guys, that would have been a phenomenal opportunity for you to take a trade on if you were actually analyzing the market from this way. What we see, we had a lot of bearish momentum to break that support. That clearly shows that we're still very bearish. Now we just have to have patience to come back and retest that level, and then we can look for opportunities to short. Now, keep this in mind, guys, right? Where are we headed to right now for Euro USD? Currently, right now, we're actually heading back to a level of support. So there's two things that can happen here. Price can come to this support, it can act as support, and we actually see a reaction off of it, or price can actually go to that support, just break that support, and now that support level that we just broke can potentially turn into a newfound level of resistance. Very, very simple. Okay, so if price, guys, continues in this bearish tone that we've been seeing for Euro USD, which I believe we're going to continue seeing a lot of bearishness throughout this entire year for the euro, this can also be an opportunity to now get involved. If we break the support, that support can turn into resistance, and that can be an area that we want to start looking for potential entries from. Again, support and resistance, guys, is a very simple thing to understand. And it's very important for you guys to really comprehend it so that you can go ahead and start finding the best opportunities to trade from, right? So very simple. Utilize support and resistance, right? Utilizing structure to help you out. Now, let's go ahead and really talk about something else. And let's talk about time frames, because we're doing everything right now, guys, from the bigger perspective, right? The daily. But you have to understand, guys, right? These time frames are also fractal, right? Which means levels of support and resistance that are found in the bigger time frame can also be found on the smaller time. There's also going to be levels of support and resistance from a smaller time frame that can also be of importance. So you want to also make sure that you are aware of support and resistance levels even on the smaller time frames. I utilize the daily to figure out my overall picture of the market, my overall blueprint, but I do enter positions on the smaller time frames, the 5-minute to 15-minute time frames. But on those smaller time frames, there can also be different levels of support and resistance that could be of importance for us to pay attention to. So let's actually go to the lower time frame and really see what we're looking at, right? So now we're going down, let's say, to the 1 hour time frame. And as you guys can see, there are different levels of support and resistance on these time frames, right? We had this previous level of support right here, a 1 hour time frame support, and we also had previous levels of resistance even right here, right inside this little range that we have here. Now, your ability to read these levels of support and resistance is going to be very crucial. Are we actually trading off a level of support or a level of resistance when we're actually looking for a trade? If I was going to be expecting, again, the bigger picture is that we are selling the euro, right? That we are in a downtrend. So if we go to the smaller time frame and now we're trying to find an opportunity to trade, we want to make sure that we're finding smaller time frame levels of resistance to stay with the overall bigger picture, which is a bearish market. Okay, so we have to be able to identify these levels, guys, even from the smaller time frames, so that we also know exactly when we could potentially go ahead and jump into this market. So that's how we identify support and resistance, by simply using market structure. Now, there's another way, guys, that I also like to identify support and resistance, and that is by what I like to use, moving averages, a specific moving average, right? There's a couple of ones that I typically like to use. I like to use the 200 period EMA. I like to use the 50 period EMA, but we're going to specifically just talk about the 50 period EMA today, because this is the one that I really like the most. Now, if you want to identify, guys, areas of structure or support and resistance, you can also do that by knowing how to read moving averages. If we look at this moving average right here, which is the 50-period moving average, we know that we're in a downtrend because we can see the market clearly going in that direction. So it's very simple, guys. The 50-period moving average pretty much acts like a magnet to the market, right? Every time that we see fast price action go away from it, we typically always come back. That is also going to highlight areas of support and resistance to moving averages, because these moving averages are going to act as support and resistance. So when we see price pull back to the moving averages, that is an opportunity for us to be aware that a key level is probably around that area. So we react and we take the trade going in the direction of the market. Okay, so then we see price right here push away. We've seen price come all the way back to the moving average. And then we see the rejection to continue in this trend. Very simple. Look at this again. We see price come back to the moving averages, right? It is a little bit harder to read just because it could do some false breakouts, right? But it's the same concept. We see price come back. We can expect something from these levels, and then you can have an opportunity to go ahead and ride the next move. Currently, right now, we're seeing an example of a moving average acting as support and resistance. And this example is acting as resistance because it's above price. And look at this reaction that we got here. You guys cannot tell me that this wouldn't have been a perfect entry if we would have looked for the reaction off of the moving average, because now look at what price is doing. It's tanking off of the fact that that moving average was acting as a form of support and resistance. For this example, it was acting as resistance, guys. So again, I like to use moving averages personally, and I like to treat them as like training wheels, right? If you struggle with if you're struggling with reading raw structure, raw price, then go ahead and throw some moving averages on it. Utilize those training wheels to actually help you identify where you can expect a possible reaction from. But family, that's as simple as it gets. Support and resistance, as simple as it is extremely powerful. And a lot of the top traders, guys, in the world utilize this information all day long to find the most probable trade ideas. Now it's time for you to go ahead and start implementing this information on support and resistance to help you out as well moving forward. So without further ado, guys, I just want to go ahead and say I appreciate you guys for watching this video. If you guys were able to go ahead and get some value from this video, I highly encourage you guys to go ahead and just drop a like for me. It definitely helps me out tremendously, guys. That could be your thank you for the value that I'm providing and for the value that I will continue providing moving forward. Right now, one last thing as well, if you guys are not subscribed, go ahead and make sure to be subscribed. Like I said, we're going to be dropping bangers after bangers after bangers, guys, this entire year, because I want to make sure that I'm providing a lot of value to you guys. The value that I've been able to utilize to help my trading career really take off is the same value I'm going to give to y'all, so I can see your guys' trading career take off as well. So without further ado, family, make sure to be aware of all the next videos. Like I said, we got bangers coming next, and I hope to see you guys continue to improve your trading career, and I hope to see you guys as well at the top, because the bottom itself is just way too crowded. All right, family, I appreciate y'all. I love you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next banger. Let's get it.